Good afternoon, everyone. This is the 9/12/24 meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals in Chatham, pursuant to the Governor Healy's March 29, 2023 signing of the Acts of 2023, extending certain COVID measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. This meeting of the Chatham Zoning Board of Appeals is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who'd like to listen to this meeting in progress should call 1-508-945-4410, conference ID 132-073-149#, or join the meeting via the Microsoft Teams link on the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access. We'll post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. We will post, in accordance with town policy, the public can speak to any issue on the business agenda during the meeting when recognized by the chair. We start with a roll call of board members to agree with this form of meeting, and we'll start with Virginia Fenwick.
Virginia Fenwick, I approve.
Just go all the way around.
Steve DeBoer, I approve.
Lee Hovey, I approve.
David S. Nixon, I approve.
And Randy Potash, I approve as well. We ask if anybody is participating on the call via the internet, please give their last 4 digits of their phone number for identification purposes and their name. We conduct the meeting as follows. Staff to my right, Sarah Clark, will read the advertisement. Anyone in favor of the appeal would then get to speak for up to 5 minutes. Anyone, let's see, I will read all the letters or summarize them. Anyone against the appeal or application may speak or ask a question, and there's a 5-minute limitation on questions and opinions. The applicant may rebut testimony. The board may direct questions to anyone present. We hear further information, close the public hearing, deliberate, and usually we vote on the application. All votes are taken by roll call, and at the end of the meeting, we close via verbal confirmation and note the time of adjournment. We basically have 8 members of our board, and as you can see, there's only 5 here tonight. Pursuant to Mass General laws, the applicants need 4 out of 5 votes to prevail, and we have enough people to do that tonight. We have David Nixon, who's a regular member, Virginia Fenwick, regular member. We have associate members, Steve DeBoer and Lee Hovey, and myself. And with that, I will ask Virginia Fenwick for a motion to approve the meetings from August 8th and August 15th. We can do them both at the same time unless anyone indicates they have a change that they want to make. Does anyone have a change in either agenda that they want to make? No. Okay, so
moved.
I second that.
And how do you vote? Dave?
I vote yes.
I vote yes.
Steve votes yes.
I vote yes.
As do I. So we will proceed with the first application whenever Sarah's ready.
Application number 24-068, Friendly Nominee Trust, care of James M. Norcross, Esquire, P.O. Box 707, Chatham, Mass. 02633. Owner of property located at 23 Mill Hill Lane, also shown in the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 16C, Block 22, Lot 6. The applicant proposes to change, alter, or expand a non-conforming dwelling on a non-conforming lot via the construction of a partial second floor and an addition. The existing dwelling is non-conforming and that it is located 18.3 feet from the road where a 25-foot setback is required and 6.6 feet from the northerly abutter. The proposed partial second floor addition will be non-conforming in that it will be located 10 feet from the northerly abutter where a 15-foot setback is required. The existing building coverage is 1,525 square feet, 17.4%, and the proposed building coverage is 1,750 square feet, 20%, where 15% is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 8,743 square feet, where 20,000 square feet is required in the R20 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 6 and Section 5B of the Protective Bylaw. This was continued from July 18th, 2024.
Welcome, Attorney Norcross.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Jamie Norcross representing Andrew and Kelly Friendly. As Sarah just read, this was continued, this first application from back in July. I came in and explained that the Friendlies and their architect were working on some revisions to the plans. The revisions resulted in a different square footage for building coverage, so Sarah asked us to submit a different application, which is your next agenda item. So as it relates to this application, I believe the action would be for me to request a withdrawal without prejudice, and then we can move along to the second application.
Okay, Ginny? You move to allow the withdrawal?
Yes, I move to allow the withdrawal.
I second that.
And how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Ginny?
Yes.
Steve votes yes.
I vote yes.
As do I. Okay, that's unanimous. Next.
Application number 24-101, Friendly Nominee Trust, care of James M. Norcross Esquire, P.O. Box 707, Chatham, Mass. 02633. Owner of property located at 23 Mill Hill Lane, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 16C, Block 22, Lot 6. The applicant proposes to change, alter, or expand a nonconforming dwelling on a nonconforming lot via the construction of additions. The existing dwelling is nonconforming in that it is located 18.3 feet from the road where a 25-foot setback is required and 6.6 feet from the northerly abutter. The proposed additions will comply with road and abutter setback requirements. The existing building coverage is 1,525 square feet, 17.4%, and the proposed building coverage is 1,910 square feet, 21.8%, where 15% is the maximum allowed. The lot is nonconforming in that it contains 8,743 square feet, where 20,000 square feet is required in the R20 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 6, and Section 5B of the Protective Bylaw.
Welcome back, Mr. Norcross.
Thank you. Good afternoon again. For the record, Jamie Norcross representing Andrew and Kelly Friendly. Kelly is participating today on Microsoft Teams, and next to me is Leslie Schneeberger, who is the architect for the project. This property was first purchased by the Friendly family back in 1979. Andrew and Kelly engaged with Leslie to develop an addition to the property to provide for more living area in the home. And Leslie's going to go over that, the proposed modifications with you shortly. I would touch on that preservation, historic preservation, has been extremely important to the Friendly family over the years, and so it was essential to Andrew and Kelly to incorporate changes that would maintain the historic significance and design of the existing home. In terms of nonconformities, like most of the lots in this area, it is undersized and nonconforming at about 8,700 square feet, where 20,000 is required. With regard to the existing house, it's nonconforming as it's located 18.3 feet from Mill Hill Lane and 6.6 feet from the north lot line. The existing lot coverage is also nonconforming as it's 17.4%, where a maximum of 15% is allowed. With regard to the additions, the proposed one-story additions that you see on the south side of the site plan that are highlighted in with the black perimeter will meet all setback requirements. The building coverage will remain non-conforming. It is increasing to 21.8%. So with that, I'd ask Leslie to describe the design for you, and then I'll run through the criteria.
Hello, Leslie Schneeberger, architect for Andrew and Kelly. The home, as you've seen, is a fairly small cape, very historic and very well preserved. The priorities of Andrew and Kelly were, most of all, to get a safe stair to the second floor. It is still a typical historic cape with a very, very steep stair. After that was a home office, mudroom kind of space, because there's not a lot of room in that house, and we have things now, and a second floor bathroom, preferably in the primary suite. As you saw with the withdrawn application, we looked to do that with as little coverage as possible. You could say that was our first analysis of an alternative. And we withdrew it because we found it was putting a lot of burden on the existing house. And so we found a little bit of extra space by bumping out the family room. So let me walk you through how we found the pieces we were looking for. This new stairway, we actually put in the location of the existing stairway. It took away the small mudroom that had been there. We created the new mudroom, which when you're looking at the drawing is on the far right bottom. It's the extra bump out towards the driveway. The bonus of it is it also makes the house a little warmer, a little cooler, because it's a barrier before you walk straight into the home. And we did it as small as we could to be in keeping with the house and kind of a secondary element, but still useful. After the mudroom, the home office was what increased the footprint on the family room side that we had not previously done. The family room is at the back of the property, was well within the building setbacks, and was a great place to be able to expand a little bit further. We didn't change the ridge height. We're just simply, almost if you think of it as an extrusion, just pulling it out to make that extra space. The bonus of it that we found is it really creates a more enclosed courtyard where they already have a patio. So it actually gives a little bit more buffer in that old area where everybody's so close together. And then the expansion of the roof on the second floor, the dormer, is getting larger, and that's where we found the space to put that bathroom. I think that is everything related to it.
Oh, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Leslie. Going through the criteria, number one, adequacy of the site in terms of size. We believe the size of the site is adequate for this proposal. The addition will increase the non-conforming lot coverage at the property, but the size of the combined addition is only 385 square feet, so it's rather modest in size. And as I mentioned, the two main additions are limited to a single story. As Leslie mentioned, by expanding the home on the south side, the applicant is able to maintain conformity with the setback and locate the addition in an area of the home with the most open space. Number two, compatibility of the size of the proposed structure with neighboring properties. Again, we think the size of the structure is compatible with neighboring properties. A review of the gross floor area numbers for the neighborhood demonstrates the overall size compares favorably with homes in this area, again, most of which are located on very small lots and located quite close to one another. This expansion provides the Friendlies with the additional living area that they seek while still being respectful to the neighborhood and their neighbors. Number three, extent of the proposed increase in the nonconforming nature of the structure. There is an increase in the nonconforming building coverage, as well as a small expansion of the dormer on the north side of the home within the setbacks. The two single-story additions will comply with lot line setback requirements. Suitability of the site is suitable for the proposed project, no negative impact on neighboring properties or the natural environment. Number five, impact of scale, setting, and mass on neighborhood visual character. Again, I'd suggest it will not have a negative impact on neighborhood visual character. The additions on the south side of the property are largely hidden from view from neighboring properties by the existing fence and a rather robust vegetative barrier that goes around the property. While these additions will be visible from a segment of Mill Hill Lane, being only one story in height limits any concerns relative to scale and mass. Finally, the design maintains the historic integrity and feel of the existing home, which will allow these additions to blend into the property over time. You'll read in the correspondence a letter from the Historical Commission who found that the additions do not materially diminish the historic significance of the home. Number six, residential use in a residential neighborhood and therefore compatible. Number seven, have adequate water and drainage. A new septic tank, as noted on David's plan, will be installed as part of the project and comply with Board of Health regulations. No negative impact on traffic flow and safety, no issues with noise and litter, and the property has adequate utilities. 11 and 12 in this case are not applicable. So in conclusion, again, we think this is really a modest addition to the property. We think it provides the Friendlies with the additional living area they're looking for while maintaining the integrity from an historic aspect of the property and certainly not substantially more detrimental. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Is there anybody here or on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak in favor of this application? Raise your hand, please. I see it blinking, but I'm not sure if that's a hand raise online. So I'm going to ignore it for now. We have two letters, one from the Chatham Historical Commission and one from the health agent. Judith Giorgio, our health agent, writes on 9/10/2024, I have reviewed the plan to renovate and add an addition to this property. It has 4 bedrooms, and the proposed addition will maintain the 4-bedroom layout. A new addition will not encroach on the existing septic. A relocated septic tank is proposed and must be approved and permitted by the Health Division prior to construction. Then we have a letter from the Chatham Historical Commission dated on 9/9/2024. Hi, Sarah. We reviewed the application and found the home historically significant, but the changes do not materially diminish the home's historical significance, so they do not impose a demolition delay. They also reaffirmed that the home is a contributing structure in the NDR, and the proposed changes do not constitute a substantial alteration, so they did not refer this to the Cape Cod Commission. That concludes the letters. Is there anybody here or on Microsoft Teams that has a question or wishes to speak against this application? Please make it known. Seeing none, questions from the board. David Nixon,
I have none, thank you.
Virginia Fenwick,
No questions.
Steve has no questions.
No questions.
and nor do I. Okay, can I have a motion to close the hearing and move into deliberations?
Yes, I'd like to move to close the hearing and move to
So
deliberation.
moved?
So moved.
I second that and vote yes.
And I vote yes.
Steve votes yes.
I vote yes.
As do I. Okay, deliberations. We'll start with Dave Nixon again.
Well, as Attorney Norcross has pointed out, this is a modest change, and I think Leslie, once again, has done a great job of trying to fit it in a very limited space. That seems to be your specialty, Leslie.
Let's not advertise
Good
that.
for you. Yeah. Hang that out in your shingle, right? But I'm very pleased that the owners can get what they're looking for with only, 385 additional square feet. And I'm not nuts usually about percentages going up, but I understand where this is, and so the percentage is somewhat misleading. Is it detrimental in any way, shape, or form to the neighborhood? And the answer is no, so I'll be voting yes.
And Ginny?
Agree with Mr. Nixon. My comments are almost exactly what he said. You did a nice job, Leslie, with the design, Jamie with the summary presentation. I think the changes maintain the historic integrity, and I think it's a lovely home, and the additions are appropriate. And I gladly give grace to the building coverage because, it is hard sometimes to save these historic homes. So I applaud you for that, and it's not substantially more detrimental.
And we'll just keep going around.
I agree with everything that's been said prior to me.
And Lee?
As do I.
And as do I, what they said. So with that, are there any conditions that you would recommend, or that you'd like to have, or that you wouldn't like to have?
I assume you're going to do the standard conditions, which I think are fine. I believe they're looking to get started as soon as possible, so they should have it. And it's not a very large project, so it should be buttoned up by the summertime. So that's fine with the restrictions.
The usual restrictions?
Usual restrictions should be
Yeah?
fine.
Does anybody think that we don't need usual restrictions on this, or that we should skip that? What do you think?
No, I think we should.
We should?
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. It just keeps things in check, particularly with the neighbors being so close.
Right.
You don't want vehicles to end up in the street just by happenstance.
Right, yep. Okay, so can I get a motion to approve with the usual conditions?
Yeah, so I move to approve application number 24101 as submitted with the following conditions. All construction activity and vehicles shall be contained on site or at a neighboring property with permission of the property owner. Between June 30th and Labor Day, no exterior construction will be allowed. No work shall be permitted on weekends, and construction activity between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. only.
Thank you.
I second that and vote yes.
Okay, and how do you vote, Virginia?
Ginny votes yes.
Steve votes yes.
Lee votes yes.
As do I. It's unanimous. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next application is going to be 9 Pine Grove Road, number 24-091, with William Litchfield Esquire. And whenever Sarah is ready, she will read that advertisement.
Application number 24-091, the Sullivan Family Trust, care of William G. Litchfield Esquire, 330 Orleans Road, North Chatham, Mass. 02650. Owner of property located at 9 Pine Grove Road, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 8B, Block 8, Lot H67. The applicant proposes to change, alter, or expand a non-conforming dwelling on a non-conforming lot via the expansion of a deck. The existing dwelling is nonconforming in that it is located 24 feet from the road where a 25-foot setback is required and 2.7 feet from the Coastal Conservancy District, floodplain elevation 11. The proposed deck expansion will be nonconforming in that it will be located 6.7 feet from the Coastal Conservancy District where a 50-foot setback is required. The building coverage will remain 2,181 square feet, 14.5%, where 15% is the maximum allowed. The lot is nonconforming in that it contains 15,023 square feet of buildable upland, where 20,000 square feet is required in the R20 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 6, and Section 5B of the protected bylaw.
Welcome, Attorney Litchfield.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the board. Bill Litchfield here on behalf of the applicants Neil and Cheryl Sullivan, who as trustees own the property at 9 Pine Grove Road. This is a very simple request. There is on the west side of the property, when you first come in on Kema on your left, as you know, an existing deck, and the Sullivans would like to expand it by 4 feet, make it 4 feet wider. And at the same time, they will also be eliminating that deck that's shown in dotted lines up at the top right-hand side of that plan, where it says remove existing deck. So it is a very small change. The area shown is there, right more or less in the middle of the screen, proposed 4-foot deck extension. So that's the extent of the request, and I'll go into the criteria without further ado in regard to the plans. As to adequacy of site, including building coverage and setbacks, all of the lots in the neighborhood are non-conforming to one degree or another. We actually have one of the larger lots. But notwithstanding nonconformity as to buildable upland and street and wetland setbacks, the site is adequate for the existing house. I think you can grant the special permit based on the finding that the site is adequate for the 4-foot expansion of the elevated deck, which is further from the top of the bank than the existing deck, and it's coupled, as I said, with the removal of a separate non-conforming deck at the northeast side. As to compatibility of size with the neighborhood, as I indicated, our lot is somewhat larger and our house is somewhat smaller than most, but generally comparable to the others in the neighborhood. But of course, size isn't really relevant. There's no change in the size of the house, gross floor area, or living area. The deck, as minimally expanded, is in keeping with its surroundings, and again, we're eliminating the other deck on the other side of the house. As to the extent of increase in nonconformity, there is none. We are further from the top of the, I call it the top of the bank. It is apparently the top of the coastal bank, but to the degree that we ever get flooding there, I think even Mr. Nixon high on Stage Island will have a problem, because a coastal flood coming up from Harding's Beach would flood Kema Road before it got into that Coastal Conservancy District. In any event, the expansion is compensated by the removal of the separate deck. As to suitability of site and impact on the natural environment, the house was built under prior land use regulations, but based on the minimal change involved as well as the change on the northeast side, the Conservation Commission has already heard it and approved it. As I understand it, the order of conditions was already recorded earlier today. As to scale, sighting, mass views, and vistas, the existing house is consistent with most of the neighborhood, or certainly far from massive, without any impact on views or vistas, and that will remain the same if you approve the special permit. The scale, sighting, and mass are unchanged. The small expansion of the deck will have no impact on the streetscape. As to compatibility of use, there's no change. It's a residential use. Water and sewer are not at issue. The health agent is written and has no concerns, no impact on traffic flow and safety, noise and litter, and of course all utilities are present, but they're not really applicable to a deck. So as you know, the question is whether the proposed small expansion of the deck without any change in gross floor area or living area is substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the current non-conforming structure on a non-conforming lot. The 4-foot wide expansion is further from the Coastal Conservancy District than is the existing structure. And again, as I've indicated, a separate non-conforming deck is to be removed, and Conservation has already approved the matter. There's no impact on any abutters. In light of the criteria and the plans in this location, I think you can find that the proposed small change is not substantially more detrimental. Be happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you very much. Is there anybody here or on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak in favor of this application? Please indicate. Seeing none, we have two letters, one from the Conservation Commission and one from the Health Department. In that order, Conservation writes to us on August 21, 2024, that as to the property located at 9 Pine Grove Road, the applicant has submitted a notice of intent that was heard by the commission on July 24, 2024. The project is scheduled for an order of conditions on August 28th. The project will be revised to meet the performance standard of the Wetlands Protection Act and the town's local bylaw. And then we have a letter from the health agent, and she has no problems with this application at all, and she tells us that on September 10th, 2024, and that's Judith Giorgio. Is there anybody here or on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak against this application or has a specific question? Seeing none. Questions from the board?
I have none, thank you.
All right. Fenwick? Ms.
I have
Fenwick?
no questions.
Steve has no questions.
I have no questions.
I don't either. So can I have a motion to close the hearing and move into deliberations?
So moved.
I second and vote yes.
I vote yes.
Steve votes yes.
I vote yes.
And I vote yes as well. All right, deliberations. Virginia Fenwick.
I think it's makes sense to expand the deck on the,
West.
with the western side, the view of the water. And I think it was a thoughtful, it's a thoughtful proposal, and it was a very nice presentation.
I think it's a good project. It kind of squares off that corner of the house and gives a little more usable space, and I don't think it's detrimental to anyone.
I agree with my colleagues.
Yes, I was very impressed, and I mentioned this to Mr. Sullivan about, he and Mrs. Sullivan are great caretakers of this property. I mean, I didn't even see a gum wrapper or anything anywhere, even underneath the deck. So when I see that, I feel good. You know, these are people who are going to do a good job and take care of it, so I certainly will be in support of it.
All right, and at this point, can I get a motion?
I move to approve the application as submitted with, do we need conditions?
Do we need conditions, Mr. Litchfield?
I don't think you do, but we wouldn't object to them if you impose them.
And what do you think, Mr. Nixon? No? Okay, so let's not say we did.
With, okay, so with no conditions.
So approve as submitted.
Yes,
I second that and vote yes.
I vote yes.
Steve votes yes.
Lee votes yes.
As do I. It's unanimous. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move along to 128 Pine Knoll Road, and that's application 24-093, represented by Attorney James Norcross.
Application number 24-093, Elizabeth Najarian, care of James M. Norcross Esquire, P.O. Box 707, Chatham, Mass. 02633. Owner of property located at 128 Pine Knoll Avenue, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 5C, Block 45, Lot S39. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a non-conforming dwelling on a non-conforming lot via the demolition of the existing dwelling and shed and the construction of a new dwelling. The proposed dwelling will comply with all dimensional requirements of the bylaw, but is considered a substantial alteration, and under the second except clause of Section 6 of Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, such substantial alteration requires the grant of a special permit. The existing building coverage is 983 square feet, 13.9%, and the proposed building coverage is 1,055 square feet, 14.97%, where 15% is the maximum allowed. The lot is nonconforming in that it contains 7,045 square feet, where 20,000 square feet is required in the R20 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 6, and Section 5B of the protective bylaw.
Welcome back, Mr. Norcross, once again.
Thank you. For the record, Jamie Norcross representing Steve and Liz Najarian. The Najarians are here in the third row with me this afternoon. We were here last winter, I believe, February or March, for a variance request for this property for a different design that was much larger and did not meet the building coverage requirement. We obviously did not receive the variance. So subsequent to that meeting, the Najarians worked with their builder to come up with a new design that would be compliant with both the setback requirements of the zoning bylaw as well as the overall building coverage requirement. And so that's what's before you today. The Nigerians have owned this property for over 25 years. It consists of an existing 3-bedroom dwelling that was built in the 1950s and is in need of substantial work. The Nigerians are looking to develop a structure that provides for additional living area for their family and result in a home that can be used as they move into their retirement years, with the goal of spending more and more time in Chatham and eventually relocating to Chatham as full-time residents. Given the condition of the existing structure, including the foundation, the Nigerians determined that a renovation addition was not feasible and that a demo rebuild was the best option moving forward. The lot is non-conforming as it contains 7,045 square feet where 20,000 square feet is required. Most of the lots in this particular neighborhood are non-conforming. It was a 1950 subdivision that was developed before the zoning bylaw, so you have a lot of small lots and a lot of non-conforming houses in this particular neighborhood. The existing house is non-conforming. It's located 14 and a half feet from the east lot line, where a 15-foot setback is required. There's also a shed that you'll see at the very northern portion of the lot that encroaches onto Soundview Avenue currently. The footprint of the existing structure will be increasing by a total of 72 square feet, and that allows us to comply with the 15% building coverage requirement of the bylaw. The structure will also comply with all setbacks, both street setbacks and abutter setbacks, and the height requirement of the bylaw. The height is obviously increasing in this case as we're adding a second story, but the Nigerians have worked to try to limit the overall height with 9-foot ceiling heights on the first floor and 8-foot ceiling heights on the second floor. So going into the criteria, number one, adequacy of the size of the site. The applicants believe the size of the site is adequate for the proposal. Well, as I mentioned, it's a small parcel. The proposed structure is really quite modest in size at about 1,000 square foot footprint. And as I mentioned, we'll meet all dimensional setbacks, including the 2 street setbacks in the north and south. So I think this is just worth touching on for a moment. So this lot is bordered on Pineville Avenue on the south and Soundview Avenue on the north. And so it has to meet a 25-foot setback to both streets. So that really shows that the size of the structure is condensed and modest in size. Given the size of this lot, we're still able to comply with those 25-foot setbacks. Number two, compatibility of the size of the proposed structure with neighboring properties. It's an interesting neighborhood in terms of design and styles. It's a mixture of homes with various sizes and styles, some of which still date back to the 1950s, including the Nigerians. Many of the homes, as you drive around the neighborhood, have been remodeled or rebuilt over the years, and there are a number that compare favorably with the proposed house in terms of size. A review of the gross floor area numbers for this area demonstrates that the proposed structure is on the higher end relative to the neighborhood, but I would note that if you remove the basement, the gross floor area figure for the proposal is only 2,082 square feet. Number three, extent of the proposed increase in non-conforming nature of the structure or use. The only increase is the fact that the living area of the structure will be increasing on a non-conforming lot. Otherwise, the project meets all aspects and requirements of the zoning bylaw, and in fact removes the one non-conformity of the existing house, which is the setback to the east lot line. Number four, suitability of the site. Again, the applicants believe the site is suitable for this project. Construction work will be completed without any impact on neighboring properties or on the natural environment. Number five, scale, siting, and mass on neighborhood visual character. I'd suggest there's no negative impact on neighborhood visual character. While the proposal results in an increase in the size of the home, any impact caused by that is mitigated by several factors. First, the proposed structure will be located over 25 feet from Soundview Avenue, and that's as measured from the deck. It's over 30 feet when measured from the corner board, and over 26 feet from Pine Knoll Avenue. I'd also point out that this distance is measured to the lot line. However, if you look at the site plan, there is an additional area of about 6 to 8 feet between the lot line and the traveled road surface of Soundview and Pine Knoll Avenue that you can see on the plan here. Therefore, as seen from the physical street, as you're driving down the street, the setback is even greater than the 30 and the 25 feet, and therefore limits the mass of the proposal. Second, the topography slopes quite significantly as you move west in this neighborhood, meaning that the property sits on one of the lower elevations in the area. Therefore, the additional height of the structure is mitigated and will not loom over the streetscape and abutting properties. In particular, the property to the east is significantly higher in grade than the Nigerian's property, and also contains a two-story structure. There are also 2 or 3 two-story similar-sized structures across Soundview Avenue from this property, including 124 Soundview Avenue. Once constructed, this proposed house will not look out of place with the homes in the immediate area. As it relates to the abutting parcel to the west, the proposed structure, again, we're talking about the corner board, will be set back almost 25 feet from the lot line, which is 10 feet more than what's required under the bylaw, also mitigating the additional height of the proposal as viewed from that abutter. I'd also note that abutter has sent in a letter of support for the project, Mr. Summers. Number 6, single-family residence in a residential neighborhood and therefore compatible. Number 7, the property has adequate sewage disposal, town water, and drainage. Number 8, no negative impact on traffic flow and safety, no issues with noise and litter, and the property has all necessary utilities. So again, in conclusion, the Nigerians have worked really hard to come up with a design that complies with all the requirements of the bylaw. It still provides them with all their essentials on the first floor, which is one of the main reasons for their the demolition rebuild. So in terms of retirement, they're going to have their master bedroom, kitchen, dining room, laundry, all on the first level, and then there's room on the second floor for their children when they come to visit. So again, this fits the needs for the Nigerians while still complying with all the requirements of your zoning bylaw, and therefore I'd suggest it is not substantially more detrimental. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody here or on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak in favor of this application? Please raise your hand. Seeing none, we have 3 correspondences to read. The Health Department writes to us on 9/10/2023. I don't know if we have anything more recent than that, but she reviewed the plan for the property.
Yeah, that was supposed to be 24.
Oh, 2024 then, okay. And the floor plan of the dwelling must be provided to confirm the existing 3-bedroom layout. The second floor office must maintain an open half wall into the stairway, and the den must have a 6-foot cased opening. I will require the property to be deed restricted to 3 bedrooms prior to approving the application. The full foundation must be 20 feet from the septic leaching area. Then we have a note from Todd Summers, April 22nd, 2024. He writes to express his approval and support for the special permit. And he has known the Nigerians for more than 20 years. His property directly abuts it on 128 Pine Knoll Ave on the left-hand side. And he tells us that it's a very reasonable request. It meets all the requirements. In his opinion, the new house will be architecturally consistent in keeping with the neighborhood size and style. He appreciates our consideration on the matter and hopes that we approve it. Then we have a note from Alexia Taxiarchos, and she tells us on April 30th, 2024, she's reaching out to support her neighbors. They've been fortunate enough to live in Chatham for nearly 10 years. Their home is located directly in the rear of that of the Nigerians. They have been respectful and responsible community-focused neighbors for the entire duration of our home ownership. They've updated us on their desire to upgrade their family home to be a residence for them and their family for generations to come. We reviewed the proposal and the architectural drawings. We are in complete support of their desire to secure a special permit. We understand that both the town mandated setbacks and allowable building footprints are met. My husband and I are planning on owning our home on Soundview for many years, and we plan on moving to Chatham full-time in the next 10 years. We believe this investment will continue to improve the value of the neighborhood while still maintaining the commitment to preserve our natural habitat, biodiversity, and charm of our street. We hope that you will consider our strong approval of the application. That concludes the correspondences. Is there anybody here on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak against this application or has a specific question? Seeing none. So, questions from the board? Ginny?
Janie, I have a couple. Can you confirm that the chimney that's shown here on those, the renderings, the house renderings, is included in the setbacks? Because I didn't see the chimney on the site plan.
Sarah asked that question earlier. It's, Wendy at Clark Engineering answered, it's the chimney's 15.2 feet from the lot line, but her understanding is because it's gonna be made of brick, it doesn't count toward the setback requirement. I suppose Jay might be able to tell me if that's right or wrong, but.
That's news to me.
Okay, well, in any event, it's over 15 feet from the lot line, so it does comply, the
Okay.
chimney.
So that would mean that was wrong,
That's wrong, yeah.
just for the record.
Well, luckily,
right.
yeah, but we do still comply with the zoning requirement there.
Very good.
You included in our packet, and you did the last time as well, this gross floor area comparison. I'm assuming that the number here is the prior number and not the adjusted number, which is 3123.
Correct, so the
Okay.
correct number is 3123.
3123, okay. Can you confirm what the box is? If you go to the floor plan A56, it looks like it's maybe framed up to be a closet, but looks like it's a closet off of the office. Is that intended to be like a walk-in closet, or?
I'm sorry, where that space
Right
right
there where
there?
the hand is, yeah.
Steve or Liz, could you have to come up, Steve, if you can, yeah, please. Just have to introduce yourself.
Yes, hi, I'm Steve Najarian, one of the applicants. Yeah, that space is intended just to be like a storage closet for, we're still not retired yet, and we'll be working a little bit, and we'll need that space for, supplies and storage to assist.
Okay. And then I think Judith, I missed the part that Judith is she putting a cased opening over that den, or is that just that's going to be an opening? And there's no cased opening over the office because of the low wall of of where the stairs are?
Correct.
Correct, she has the 36-foot high half wall.
Okay. Okay. One more question is about the proposed height. So you mentioned, Jamie, 9 feet, first floor, 8 feet, second floor. So that's about 17 feet. 29 4 inches is the proposed, is the ask. So is that additional 12 feet, is that mostly attic space that we're talking about? Or, I mean, give or take a few feet foundation?
Yeah, I mean, right, you can see the first floor is just a couple steps off a grade,
Yeah.
and then you got the 9-foot structure between the two, and then 8 foot, and then, empty attic space, yeah. I mean, there's nothing up in the attic, really.
Okay.
Just voids, void
The
space.
12 over 12 pitch for the roof is a pretty, I mean, that's kind of a steep roof. I guess my question there is, would there be consideration of lowering the height?
Something we discussed, it's challenging when you have a narrow structure, which ultimately this is, because it has to fit in that
Yeah.
box, and it's, it tends to go up, and it's more difficult to lower.
Yeah, and then I think too, also, if you see the side elevation below the front elevation, if you were to lower that ridge, while it would be okay for the front elevation, but on the side elevation, you really would create a squat, very, very, close to being, not adequately pitched roof. I would afraid if you lowered that ridge, that would really squat, really squat, make it a squat.
Madam
slope.
Chair, the builder, Chris Childs, has his hand up. He might be able
Please.
to explain some of this
Okay,
as well.
Mr. Childs, you're recognized. You might be muted, but you are recognized.
You are muted.
We can't hear you, Mr. Childs.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Hi, Chris Childs, Patriot Builders. Yeah, I just wanted to, on the height, the height is measured, the building height's measured from the average grade as well, which is lower than the actual grade. So there is a little bit of difference there. It's about 1.5 feet. So that, in terms of, when you ask the question about how much attic space is there, I would say, this is approximate, but it's probably about 7 feet between the top plate of the second floor and the ridge. So, again, the 29-foot 4-inch is not measured from the actual ground. It's measured from the average grade plane.
Okay, so it's really not 12 feet that we're talking about
Correct.
giving back.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
what would you say it would be, like if that the attic height is?
Inside, it's probably about 7 feet.
Okay.
So I'd say from the exterior, say the drip line to the ridge, it might be close to 8 feet.
Okay, thank you. Jamie, one quick follow-up question. You mentioned something about, what was narrow? You said something about because you're talking about the house, proposed house?
Correct. With the house, you can't expand out any further, really, because we're maxed out on coverage, so to speak. So
Right.
you can't, in terms of, you widen the house, you can lower the roof perhaps a little bit, at least from a visual perspective. But in this case, it's really, this is the box we have to work with on the property.
No, I get that, but I wouldn't describe it as narrow. It's very much a square box.
Yeah, it's a square. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
No, I agree.
Okay, that's all
And
I
I guess
have.
to Steve's point about the side elevation, I do agree that if you lower the pitch of the roof, it's going to make the roof look more squatted and just aesthetically not as appealing as, this is already kind of a lower pitched roof because of the building height. So making it even lower pitch, I think, would not be as aesthetically pleasing.
And I just want to mention one other thing, Jenny. If you look at the building height as measured from the top of foundation, it's about 27.1 feet. So again, the lot slopes off pretty significantly to the west, so that affects the average grade number and ultimately the height number under the bylaw. But if you look at in the middle of David's plan, in the middle of the proposed house, he's got the top of foundation at 34.3 and the ridge elevation at 61.4. So if you're looking at the actual height of the building, so to speak, as you think of it sort of in a common sense perspective, it's really 27.1.
You're saying that visually, the proposed house will look like it's 27 feet, not 29?
Well, again, the average grade factors in that you have to take in the lower elevations on the
Right, but
side
on
of the
the-
house, so it slopes down. So if you're
Right.
looking at it from the street, really, it's the 27 feet is what the house is gonna look like. If you're looking at it from a foundation to a roof, which is how, in general, you're gonna view a home.
Yeah, it's hard to visualize that. When I was looking at the site plan, it looks like the current house is 14 feet, and would be almost doubling it in height.
Yep.
In 14 feet additional on top.
Right.
Okay. All right, that's all I have.
And Steve, questions?
I was just going to ask you how you were going to address the concerns from the health agent. Are you taking all of those requests that she had into consideration?
Yes, so they'll be providing floor plans of the existing to confirm it's a 3-bedroom. David's plan does show that there's a 23-foot setback between the proposed house and the leaching field,
Okay.
which addresses her concerns there.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
And Lee, questions?
Do we have any idea what the height of the house to the right?
Yeah, I don't think a survey shot was done to that ridge. I do know that grade goes up 4 or 5 feet, and then additionally, their first floor is another 3 or 4 feet above. You see a 3 or 4 foot high foundation wall before you hit their first floor. And then there are 2 stories, but I don't have a number on that.
Okay, I was a little concerned about the height too, but Attorney Norcross's explanation of the 27.1, as you look at it from the street, does help me.
Yeah. And I think that's why we wanted to keep the house only 2 short steps up like it is right now. We didn't want to, well, first of all, for cutting down number of steps, but secondly, just to not raise the first floor elevation any higher as a starting point. We wanted to keep it low as possible.
Dave Nixon, questions?
Thank you. Yeah, to me, this isn't answering our problem about the height that we discussed last time. So I understand your explanation of the design you presented to us, but what would a home that is a story and a half with a dormer do to your plans? Because from what I heard, you and your wife are going to be living on the first floor.
Yeah.
The second floor is being designed for children that might come to visit you at times, you know. And so, to me, this is too much of a house for what your needs are. And because of that, it's not speaking to my concern about the height. So tell me about your thoughts about a different design that would lower the roof substantially,
Yep.
but give you the space on the second floor for family visitations, and yet your first floor is going to be apparently what you and your wife want.
Yeah, I think.
So why doesn't that make sense?
I think because if we did that and we dormered, then the pitches of the roof where the dormers aren't would be cutting into all the rooms, and they would reduce the room sizes substantially upstairs. And they're not large as it is now. I mean, they're pretty much bare bones minimum sizes for adequate bedroom and office and that kind of thing. And if we had a dormer, you know, you could create dormers, but you'd have slopes of the roof cutting into those second floor rooms. I think we kicked ideas around. I mean, if Chris even wants to sort of chime in and support that, we talked about that a little bit. And it would cut into the rooms up there. And we'll make
But
them
you could
good.
still have rooms, it just wouldn't be the box of 8 by whatever it might be that you would have now.
Oh, right, right.
Tell me about the basement. What are your plans for the basement? What's going to go in there?
Well, right now, we're just going to use it as storage, and I'll have a little workbench down there, and that's kind of what our plans are right now. We don't have any plans. You know, you do need storage in these smaller homes. You know, that one little tiny shed you see hanging over the property line is not cutting it right now, you
Yeah.
know, so.
Every time I've been out there, that shed kind of speaks to me like,
Yeah,
what are you doing here? What am I doing here? You know, I know, I understand that.
we'll get him across the property line,
Yeah.
I promise.
Okay, well, I don't think I have any other questions. Thank you for your
Okay.
answers.
So just for anybody that's listening at home, what's the height of the house now and what's proposed?
Let's see. The ridge height now is, call it, I don't know, 14 feet
Right.
roughly. Excuse me, the height of the structure now is 14 feet. And the proposed would be, again, as measured from average grade, would be 29.
So
So
are
it's going-
those things being equal, though?
Well,
Like-
let's just use ridge elevation, because I think that's a little
All
bit
right,
easier. So
let's do that.
The existing ridge is 47, the proposed is 61.4, so 14 foot
14
difference.
feet?
Yep,
And that's all being equal?
yeah, that's ridge to ridge, yep.
No, like it looks this way, but it's
Nope.
really this way and all that jazz? All right. So just want to be clear.
Yep, nope.
And what about the shed? Are you going to move the shed?
Yeah, we'll move it, or, you know, I know there are some sort of setback requirements also for sheds, so we'll move that within the region of
Yeah, sure.
of those setbacks, sure.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't have any more questions. Can I get a motion to close the hearing and move into deliberations? Oh, Steve has one more question. I'm so sorry.
Just, have you considered lowering the height of the first floor ceiling to 8 feet? And the second floor to maybe 7.5?
I mean, being a 6'2" person, 7.5 is a very tight ceiling height.
Well, that would be the second floor,
Yeah, but still, we'd rather not adjust. I
or
mean, I
maybe
could-
even 8 feet and 8 feet.
Yeah, I mean, we
You'd gain a
could-
foot of ridge height then.
Yeah, I mean, if we could do 8 feet and then like 8'9" or something like that and knock it down a couple inches, but I really wouldn't want to go less than that, you know? I mean, a lot of new homes now are, first floor is 9 foot or 10 foot. We realize 10 foot's not really appropriate for this house. So that's why we chose the 9 foot.
Okay, all right.
Did you Oh, did the person online want to say anything else? Because all of a sudden his picture got big.
Yeah, you're,
Well, I'll just to add to the ceiling height, and the rooms on the first floor are pretty small as well. So I think the 9-foot height just helps with that. You know, whether being tall or not, it just helps make the space feel a little bigger, feel like you have a little more space than you actually do. So, you know, if it's possible, I think keeping the 9-foot would be desired.
All right, thank you. If no one else has any other questions, I will ask for a motion to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
So moved.
I second that, vote yes.
Yes.
Steve votes yes.
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Okay, deliberations. Lee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I do appreciate the fact that you listened at the previous meeting and you did reduce the building coverage within the, bylaws, the 15%. And I think that's appreciated. I still feel that it looks a little big for the neighborhood, a little tall for the neighborhood. Is it substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood? No, I don't think so. If I could, really put my 2 cents in, I would be to reduce the height slightly, or redesign to maybe along the ideas of what Mr. Nixon said, dormers, or, I've said it before, it's nice to meet all the setbacks, but, sometimes we approve houses that don't meet all the setbacks.
right.
So.
Well, would it be appropriate to,
Sir, we have to just
Oh,
wait
I'm
till
sorry.
you're
I'm
recognized. Did you have a question for this gentleman? Or was that in the form of a question?
No, just a suggestion.
Okay, I was being very careful with
sorry.
that. All right, so questions from Steve, deliberations, Steve?
Well, I think it's commendable that you, took the effort to try to get the house in range of the setbacks. You do have sort of a funny lot there where you're kind of shoehorned in there a little bit. I think the house is a little bit tall, and the fact that it's relatively square, I think and its height, I don't know. I think there's ways to drop the ridge a little bit. You could change the pitch of the roof slightly. You could lower the ceiling height in the first floor to 8'6" maybe, and on the second floor to 7'6". There's ways to reduce the ridge height. I think that's sort of common amongst the board members, that common concern. But I do appreciate the fact that you did your best to get it within the setbacks and try to make this as compatible or as compliant as possible.
All right, Ginny?
Well, I am too, but the reason the setbacks are such a challenge is because you have 7,000 square foot lot. That is really the issue. I think that you're trying to, first of all, let me just say, I'm in support of more space and of aging in place. I remember your wife making the comment at the last hearing. And I see how you have tried to do the things with the setbacks and the coverage, and I appreciate that too. But you reduced the height 2 inches from the last hearing. And my concern with this proposal is the height. Because, let's talk about gross floor area as well. Jamie, I go back to your chart that you provided. There are only 6 homes out of 46 that have greater, 6 homes out of 46 are greater than the proposed gross floor area. So the vast majority, so you're asking for a large house vis-a-vis the rest of the homes in that area, and for such a small lot, 7,000 square foot lot. So the reason that, to me, the gross floor area is only a concern, because when you add the height to that extra gross floor area, it equals mass. So I'm not really, I don't really have that much of a problem with the gross floor area. A third of it is the basement. But the fact that the height is 8 inches from the maximum allowed in Chatham for a lot in a neighborhood that has a lot of small lots and therefore a lot of smaller homes on those lots, I think is too high, which is why I was asking about the reduction of the ridge and attic space, and if anything. Steve mentioned the reduction of some of the floors. I understand you're 6 feet tall, so I get it, but that is where I'm struggling.
Yeah.
And Mr. Nixon?
Well, Ms. Fenwick has brought out a very important point, I think. And when I look at the 46 homes, that's what you said was on this list, Jim. And I look at the 6 that are over 3,000. Every lot is beyond 10,000. So what that tells me is that the house that you've designed to put there is simply too large. It's not compatible with the neighborhood. And what makes it that much so is the full second story. So when you look at it and you get that full second story, then the attic on top of it, to me, it's just overwhelming and overpowering. So what am I saying? What I'm saying is that I would want to see a plan that reduced probably by a minimum of 3 feet, more like 4 feet, before I would feel that it was compatible with the neighborhood. You certainly have done a lot about straightening out setbacks and whatnot, so thank you very much. But this is, to me, the most important aspect of what you want to do. And whether you follow through with what I said about, a story and a half, and I understand that you don't want to reduce the ceilings, okay, keep them 9 and 8. But if you can do something with the idea of dormers, you can reduce an awful lot out of that roof. And I would think, to get my vote, you would need to do that.
Mr. Norcross, what would you like to do?
I'll just talk to my client for
Sure.
a moment, if I may.
So, really our best bet at this point would be to draw without prejudice and then work on the redesign and come back.
Yeah, I guess so.
We're not gonna, we need 4 out of 5, so we're not.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, we would
Yes.
ask to withdraw without prejudice,
Without
please.
prejudice, very good. Can I have a motion to withdraw without prejudice?
So moved.
I second and vote yes.
I vote yes.
Steve votes yes.
I vote yes.
As do I. Thank you very
Thank you.
much. And whenever Sarah's ready, we are going to go to 161 Old Queen Anne Road, application 24-092, represented by Attorney William Litchfield.
Application number 24-092, William and Maura Cook, care of William G. Litchfield Esquire, 330 Orleans Road, North Chatham, Mass. 02650. Owners of property located at 161 Old Queen Anne Road, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessors Map 12G, Block 17, Lot 6. The applicant proposes to change, alter, or expand a nonconforming dwelling on a nonconforming lot via the demolition of the porch and the conversion of the garage to habitable space. Also proposes the construction of 2 conforming covered entries. The existing dwelling is nonconforming and that it is located 18.8 feet from the road where a 25-foot setback is required and 8.4 feet from the southwesterly abutter. The proposed setback to the southwesterly abutter, once the porch is demolished, will be 9.3 feet, where a 15-foot setback is required. The existing building coverage is 1,827 square feet, 11.7%, and the proposed building coverage is 1,810 square feet, 11.6%, where 15% is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 15,560 square feet, where 20,000 square feet is required in the R20 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 6, and Section 5B of the Protective Bylaw.
Mr. Litchfield, welcome.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman, members of the board. Bill Litchfield here on behalf of Bill and Maura Cook.
Excuse me,
Given
Mr.
the-
Litchfield, may I interrupt just for a bit?
Certainly.
And it has to do with the correspondence we've received. I personally feel there's a letter in there that is inappropriate for this hearing, and I think you know the one I'm talking about. Do you think I'm correct or that I'm wrong?
Thank you, Mr. Nixon, if I could, Madam Chairman. I found it to be curious, totally up to the board as to whether you act on it. I defer to the board. I thought it was, I'll say, curious.
Well, I don't know how my fellow members feel, but it is the letter from the town about infringement into the cemetery and whatnot, and I really don't think that's, because it doesn't affect what we're being asked for, and I honestly don't think it should be something that should be read, but I defer to everybody.
Okay, we'll get to that.
Thank you. As I said, Bill Litchfield here on behalf of, thank you, Madam Chairman, Bill Litchfield here on behalf of Bill and Maura Cook. And given the large crowd in the room today, it may be difficult for you to identify who the Cooks are, but they are the remaining two people aside from Mr. Ford, and I know you know Mr. Ford. Bill and Maura bought this house about 10 years ago. Maura is originally from the community and was able to come back and persuade her husband to come along. Good sense on his part. They live here year-round, and as you know from having been out there, it is a very small house. It is much smaller than it actually looks. And they also have rebuilt a garage off to the side. There is, as shown on the left-hand side there, there is an existing garage appended to the house, which they propose to convert to living space. Maura is a pianist, and they like to have a piano in there and so forth. So they are simply proposing to convert the existing garage, as shown there, to living space. It's not going to be a bedroom or anything like that, and we'll talk about that later. That is shown there. That's the view of what's there, and there's the piano. They'll have a wood stove or a gas stove in there. There isn't really room for a bedroom. And they don't have any desire for it, and we'll get again to the bedroom issues. But in terms of the exterior changes, there are two which are very minimal. On the right-hand side of the top photograph, there will be a very small, I don't want to call it a covered entryway, just something to keep the rain off your neck when you come out that door. And on the main door, which is the former garage entry door, they do want to have a small entryway. That is the only change in coverage, and that coverage is compensated by their elimination of an existing porch, which is adjacent to Old Queen Anne Road. I've said this before about the Zoning Board of Appeals, you get to go places that other people haven't seen, and this house is an example. It's behind a white fence, a white stockade fence. I don't think very many people know what's behind there. But when you go back there, you find a very nice, lovely little setting. And the Cooks would like simply to convert the existing garage to living space. So we'll go into the criteria as to adequacy of site, including building coverage and setbacks. The site is adequate for the house. Built prior to zoning, built in 1950, 4 years before we had zoning, notwithstanding its proximity to the street and to the sideline. I think you can find the site to be adequate for these minimal changes, with, as I said, a reduction in coverage and an improvement as to the sideline setback by removing the porch on the northeast side. As to compatibility of size, the neighborhood was created under prior zoning. The current house, while not visible, is not inconsistent with nearby properties. On the third page of the handout that I gave you, there is a comparison. We have a relatively large lot. A couple of them are less than 15,000. We are slightly in excess of 15,000. There's one that's almost 21,000. And there's a lot down behind in Wilford Road, which is partially wet. which is over an acre. But our numbers are consistent with those in the neighborhood. Coverage is as high as, there's a typo on that last line. It should be 2.3 on 11 Wilfred, but that's irrelevant. Coverage ranges from 2.3 up to 12.9. We'll be decreasing coverage from 11.7 to 11.6. Our gross floor area is changing only because of the entryway being constructed on the front of the former garage. And the living area numbers show you why we need what we need. The existing living area of the house is only 775 square feet. The assessors, by the way, if you happen to have checked, have an incorrect number. They are of a mind that there is a second floor of the garage, not the one we're proposing to change, but the garage on the left. There is no second floor. There's no living space. There's no living space on the second floor. That's irrelevant. But our numbers are consistent and they won't change. So I think you can find that we are compatible and will remain so. As to the extent of increase in nonconformities, there is none. We have 3 lot size, street, and sideline nonconformities, and we are improving the sideline nonconformity. As to suitability of the site, impact the natural environment, there are no environmental issues in this case. Scale, sighting, mass views, vista, streetscape, we have a modest but attractive home that the Cooks have taken very good care of to update, although, again, it's behind a privacy fence. If you approve the special permit, scale and mass are certainly not impacted by elimination of the porch or by conversion of the garage to living space. There's no effect on streetscape, and views and vistas are not at issue. As to compatibility of use, there's no change. It's residential. We're on town water and on town sewer. The last page of the handout that you have is a letter from the Department of Public Works indicating that we are authorized for 3 bedrooms for sewer flow. There's a letter from the health agent, which I think was written in error. They have 8,000 parcels to consider, but it says that we're only authorized for 2 bedrooms. In fact, we are authorized for 3. In reality, we have at present 1, because a former single, one of the 2 bedrooms in the main house has been converted to a laundry room, and there is a bedroom in the garage, but no kitchen or anything like that. So we only have 2 bedrooms. We only want 2 bedrooms. The music room den is going to not be a bedroom, but if we wanted it to, we could, because we're authorized for 3 bedrooms under sewer regulations. No impact in traffic flow and safety, no impact in noise and litter, and all utilities are there. So as you are aware, the question is whether the proposed conversion of the garage to a family room with a piano or music room, coupled with elimination of the non-conforming porch and construction of a small conforming entryway, whether those changes are substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. We have an unusual location in terms of being behind a fence and not readily visible from anywhere. But what is really a small change yielding a reduction in coverage yields a significant increase in living space for the Cooks. And again, it's accomplished essentially on the same footprint. As small as the change is, as I said, it's important to them and their continued year-round living. It's certainly a change which is far less than I think that you could find to be or to have a detrimental effect on the neighborhood. So in light of the criteria in the plans, you can find the proposed conversion of the garage to a den with a decrease in coverage and an improvement as to one of the sideline setbacks in this location is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. If you decide to discuss the letter from the DPW, I would be happy to respond to it. And I thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody here on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak in favor of this application? If so, please indicate. Seeing none? Oh, seeing one. Please go ahead, EB. You need to unmute, EB. If you already haven't unmuted, please do so. We're not able to hear you yet, ma'am or sir. Just for the record. And this is going to be in favor. This is the time for in favor. So note that. If you reappear after I read the correspondences and raise your hand, I will then recognize you. I'll take it out of order. Okay, at this point, I'm going to read two correspondences. We have one from Judith Giorgio, our health agent, on 9/10/2024. She received the plan to convert the garage to living space at the property. Our records indicate that the existing dwellings on the property are currently connected to municipal sewer. The sewer flow is approved for 2 bedrooms. Detailed floor plans of the main house and the cottage must be submitted for review. The new room may meet the definition of a bedroom, but further review is needed. And then we have a note from Heidi and Phil Hilty, and they write to us on August 29th, 2024. Please use this email as approval for the above referenced non-conforming request from William and Mara Cook for the property located on 161 Queen Anne Road to demolish the porch and convert the garage to habitable space. In addition, we support the construction of 2 conforming covered entries. We hope the neighbors will be granted the special permit. And that concludes the correspondence that I'm going to elect to read. EB, I'm going to go back to you. Would you still like to say anything in favor? Or at this point, you could say something against or ask a question. If not, if anybody else would like to comment against this application or ask a question, either here or on Microsoft Teams, please make it known. Seeing none. Questions from the board? Ginny?
No questions.
Steve?
Steve has no questions.
No questions.
No question.
Nor do I. Can I have a motion to close the hearing and move into deliberations?
So moved.
I second and vote yes.
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 And I vote yes as well. Okay, now deliberations. Steve?
I think it's a nice project. If it's helping them have a better living condition, then that's fine. The room doesn't appear to be big enough to make it a bedroom. And I don't have a problem with this at all. And I think some of the issues that were brought up in the letter that we didn't read or seem to be addressed on the site plan, so I think that's a non-issue.
Okay, David Nixon?
It's the nicest grass I've ever seen in my life. It really is. I was very envious and don't know just how to convert that into my cottage. But anyway, great location, wonderful job your clients have done, and I'm certainly in full support of what they wish to do.
And Ginny?
You know, this is a great example of big impact with the small changes. The whole property, it's absolutely an amazing job that you've done. So charming. I think that the project makes sense, and I would support it.
And Lee?
I agree. What a special spot. Beautiful job. It's very private. It meets all of our criteria. So I will support it as well.
Okay, and as do I. Just want to go back just to give EB one more chance, because I don't want to be accused of, by anybody, of not paying attention to anybody that has a question in the public. So
We'll attest in court that you tried your damnedest. How's that?
I tried. All right, that being said, can I have a motion to approve the application as submitted with the usual conditions?
So moved.
Wait, can you read the conditions,
Read the
Madam
conditions.
Clerk?
Okay. Yes, we will approve application number 24092 as submitted with these conditions. All construction activity and vehicles shall be contained on site or at a neighboring property with permission of the property owner. Between June 30th and Labor Day, no exterior construction will be allowed. No work shall be permitted on the weekends, and construction activity between 8 and 5 p.m. only.
I second that and vote yes.
I vote yes.
Steve votes yes. Steve votes yes.
I vote yes.
As do I. It's unanimous. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Now we have one more application, and that would be 24-094, RNS Nominee Trust, represented by Attorney Michael Ford for 144 Chat Harbor Lane. Whenever Sarah is ready.
Application number 24-094, RNS Nominee Trust, care of Michael D. Ford Esquire, P.O. Box 485, West Harwich, Mass. 02671. Owner of property located at 144 Chat Harbor Lane, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 5B, Block 1, Lot 10. The applicant seeks to extend special permit number 22-082 for 1 year. The current expiration date is October 20, 2024. The proposed expiration date is October 20, 2025. The special permit allowed the applicant to demolish the existing dwelling and construct a new dwelling. The lot contains 14,400 square feet of contiguous buildable upland, where 20,000 square feet is required in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Sections 6 and 14, and Sections 5B and 8D, 2B of the Protective Bylaw.
Attorney Ford, nice to see you.
Nice to be here and to be seen, Madam Chairman. Mike Ford, representing the applicant. And the trustee of my trust just walked out, Mr. Litchfield, but I'm not sure. So if there is a question, I'll go out and get him. The beneficiaries of the trust, Josh Zimber and others, his family, have been working hard on this project to get it going. Their dilemma is that they are transitioning to a new architectural firm, Catalano and Associates, and who was working very hard to come up with a plan that fits the plan that was approved so that they can proceed with the building permit. And they just haven't been able to get to the point where Catalano has something that can be submitted upon which a building permit can be granted. And so an extension is requested respectfully. This is the first extension. I don't think it prejudices anybody to allow it to happen. This was a long and winding road on this lot, as some of you may recall. And they have prior proposals on it. It's really a lot that's 190,000 square feet, has patches of upland. And we were able to come up with something here that did, at the end, get the support of the council that I worked for a long time, putting together the project. So that's my presentation, and I'm hopeful that the board sees that it's a reasonable request for a one-year continuance.
Okay, David Nixon?
Yes.
Actually, I think I need to go through the whole questions from the public and the whole 9 yards, so let me do that.
I would agree, you should follow the process.
Yes, I'm going to follow the
Madam Chair.
process. I know this is different, but we are going to do that. So, is there anybody here on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak against, for this application at all? Anybody? No? Okay, I will read the one correspondence from Conservation Commission, and they write to us on August 21, 2024, that the property owner of 144 Chat Harbor Lane submitted an application to them on August 10th, 2022, August 24th, 2022, September 28th, 2022. The project was issued in order conditions on November 2, 2022. The project was revised to meet the standards of the Wetlands Protected Act and the town regulations. So nothing has changed there. Is there anybody here on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak against this continuance? If so, please raise your hand, or if you have a question, indicate. Seeing none. Questions from the board? David Nixon.
Thank you. Yes, you mentioned your clients have changed architects. Have they also changed builders? Meaning, do they have a builder lined up?
They will change builders as well. They've got a builder working with the architect. So it's
Okay.
Catalano and Associates is the architect. I don't know whether they actually have a contract yet with KB Associates, but that's the builder they're they're dealing with.
Okay, so it's a little premature to ask you for sketches and so forth, I guess. Okay, because as you know, if another year goes by, it's kind of a different story. So, but I have no more questions. Thank you, Mr. Ford.
Ginny, questions?
Well, my only question is, along the same lines, are you sure 1 year's enough? Should you maybe just ask for 2, just to be on the safe side?
Well, if the board is disposed to, but I think we advertised for 1, and I think
Oh, okay.
your clerk, who's always on the ball, will tell you that's beyond the scope of my
Oh,
request.
Okay.
If I see a problem towards the end of the year, I'll be in early to explain what it is and ask for the board. But right now, it's a year. And of course, that's to get going, not necessarily to complete the project. We've got a provision here, because of the access, if you've ever been down to this site, very tight road, the board saw fit to put a 4-month, no work exclusion, inside or outside, on this property. So we only have 8 months during the course of the year to work on this once we get going. So it will not be completed this year, but our hope is that the building permit will issue and we'll get started. If, as a result of the new architect, and I think that's where Mr. Nixon was coming from, the plan is different at all, and I've been talking to Mr. Briggs about that issue, we'll be back here to show you that, so that you get a chance to look at it.
Okay, fair enough. Steve, questions?
No, I have no questions.
And Lee?
Nope, I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, I have no questions either, so I will ask for a motion to allow this application as submitted.
I so move.
I second that and vote yes.
Yes.
Steve votes yes.
I vote yes.
As do I, it's unanimous, congratulations.
Thank you very much. And
Okay.
Mr. Litchfield thanks you as well.
That's important. All right, so there's no other business before this board. We will,
I just want to confirm on that last
Yes.
application, that was to close the hearing, go into deliberations, and approve.
That's correct, sure. We did all that.
Okay.
One of those multifaceted motions.
Oh, sorry about that. You should have nudged me. It's okay? Okay, okay. Very good. All right, so at this point, I'm asking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I second that and vote yes.
I vote yes?
I vote to adjourn.
I vote yes.
As do I. Good night, Chatham.
Well, we need
Oh, what
the
time is
official
it?
time.
Yes.
4:28.